going to share just kind of some things that's been on my heart. This may or may not affect or have anything to do with any of you guys on this call, but I promise you, if it doesn't have anything to do with you, it has something to do with some guys that you're that are around you. To be transparent, this is probably my biggest pet peeve within the church itself, especially with men. I have about 4 different studies that I'm going through between different guys and just my personal stuff, and then you got SoulCon, and it seems like everything, you know how God does it, he kind of meshes stuff together and puts it all together for you. So let me just start with this. What I'm going to kind of be talking about is basically the Great Commission, right? What we're called to do. I start in Matthew 28, and it says, go make disciples. It doesn't say if you feel like it or any of that stuff. You literally, and I've had people say, well, Matthew says this, and then, but we got this, but this and that. Well, here's where I'm coming from this morning. There has been a couple of guys. I'm in a small group from church. We got 5 men accountability fire teams that we've got created here in the last probably 3 months, probably. And I literally have 4 out of the 5 guys. I'm the 5th, by the way. So in other words, everybody except for me has made this statement. That's not what I'm called to do. That's not my spiritual gift, to tell others. Your spiritual gifts, I can read off a few of these. I've got notes, I've got paperwork everywhere, and we're going to try to keep this short. I literally could go for an hour on a lot of this stuff, but if you go through some of the spiritual gifts, faith, mercy, leadership, discernment, evangelism, giving, knowledge, organization, teacher, pastor, these are all things to equip us to do what Matthew 28 says. To go. They're not an and or a but. And then I've had other guys who have actually said this to me, and this even in SoulCon, I've got some guys in SoulCon that have actually said these 2 things, said the same thing about the spiritual gifts, or this is not what I'm called to do, and God just hasn't equipped me to talk to people. There's also the other, where's I going with that? And I've lost my track. Lost my track, guys. Bear with me. Family, that's what it is. I hear people, and one of the big things about SoulCon, which I love, and Eric knows this, Chris knows this, anybody who's been in leadership knows this. What's the first thing that we hand you guys, that I was handed as SoulCon leadership, is a form for our spouses to look at, review, and fill out. It basically says that our first ministry is our home. And if we neglect that, abuse that in any way, then they have the right. Our spouses, by the way, if y'all don't know that, anybody in leadership, our spouses have signed a paperwork saying that they have the right to say something to one of us other leaders about how we're neglecting our home. And I agree that our first ministry is first. But first ministry first doesn't mean first ministry only. And I got a lot of guys that I've talked to recently, and just in my church, and they use that as a cop-out, right? So, and the reason why this is just huge on my heart, man, I'm gonna read. So my family, okay, we're going through. We just finished Matthew. We've been going through Matthew for the last month, I guess, or so. Not quite a month, probably 3 weeks. Normally 2 to 4 nights a week, depending on how hectic our week is. We'll sit down and we'll literally go through, and I've got commentary, and I pick apart a chapter, and we'll literally just pick it apart. So you're going through Matthew 28, and when we get to Matthew 28, I'm just going to read you like verbatim some of the stuff out of this commentary, and it hit me because I think it really truly defines what's on my mind. I know I'm scatterbrained right now. If you guys haven't read first, which I'm assuming y'all have, but I'm just gonna say, if you haven't read the first 77 pages of this book, Cody lays it out perfectly what we're called to do. It's not to be soft and sit around, and it's not to be spectators. Anyway, Wearsby. Let's see. In many respects, we have departed from this pattern, which the pattern he's talking about is making disciples. He talks about up here how we're literally, in order to multiply the church, not add to the church, if a pastor is preaching and brings in somebody and they sit down in a pew, and he brings in, somebody and they sit in a pew, and he bring, that's addition. Multiplication is when the people out in the pews then go and get somebody, and then they go get somebody, and then they'll go get somebody, and that's multiplication. It will grow so much faster as the church. That's what we're called to do. Anyway, so that's what he kind of lays out ahead. So we have departed from this pattern. In most churches, the congregation pays the pastor to preach, win the lost, and build up the saved. While the church members function as cheerleaders if they're enthusiastic. I don't know too many enthusiastic cheerleaders in our church. They're pretty much just there, but or spectators. The converts are one baptized and then given the right hand of fellowship, and then they join the other spectators. The only way a local church can be fruitful and multiply instead of growing by additions is with the systematic discipleship program. This is the responsibility of every believer. So I don't know how y'all's churches are. I don't know if y'all are told this or what, but I mean, and I want to say real quick, I've shared clips of our pastor. Our pastor is just on fire. He doesn't hold nothing back. We are big into small groups. We're big into accountability groups. And yet I still have all these guys within our church that say, well, when I'm out in the public or if I'm at work, I just can't talk about God. Why? Why can't you talk about God? And you've all heard the analogies, right? Y'all have heard, well, if you had the cure for cancer, would you not share it? If you had somebody who gifted you $1 million and all you had to do was tell somebody else for them to get the same gift of $1 million. I don't know if you've heard all these analogies. But in perspective, those are all just nothing compared to what we're going to spend eternity to. And kind of to sum all this up, and then we kind of just, I'll open up for discussion here just a little bit, but what brings all this to fruition, and I don't know about you guys, but my life has been riddled in the last 2 years with death of family members and friends. I had one commit suicide. Elaine's 41-year-old cousin died. We think that it was because he fell off a ladder, had a blood clot in his head. We don't even know. My 51-year-old cousin died. I don't know where they're at. Her cousin at least talked about God some. My cousin didn't want nothing to do with it. I tried a time or two, and then I just kind of left it go. Because, we have time. As he gets older, it'll settle in, and then I'll be able to talk to him then. I can't now. One of the things that got me in the SoulCon book, as you're reading through those first 77 pages, is I don't want to be standing in heaven next to my neighbor who didn't know about Jesus and is fixing to get sent to hell for eternity. And all I had to do was go over there and talk to him and just share. Am I saying you're supposed to go over there and preach? Maybe. Maybe it's just supposed to go over there and have coffee with them and show them love and just tell them about what God's doing in your life. When they see what God's doing and the love that you have for Him, and they can see His love for you, it'll change things. Man, I literally, guys, I probably went through a tenth of the notes that I have written down, but I just want to open this up for discussion, and I just want to ask you guys, do y'all run across guys like this? Do you guys struggle like this? I have a hard time sometimes slowing down and just trying to see people Brandon Heath's got that song. I don't. You guys all know it. Give me your eyes for just 1 minute. Give me your eyes so that I can see everything that I've been missing. If we could only have God's eyes for people, and we look around, see them as He sees them, the compassion, the love that we would have on people would be so much more than what we have now. At least I'm speaking for myself. I have a problem with slowing down and looking. So, anyway, guys, let me know what your thoughts are on this. I'm gonna open it up, Eric.